The great thing about my videos is I go on for such a fucking long time that no one's ever gonna actually get past the very long intro to actually hear the, um, the Secret Service shit that goes on later on. I was just watched a YouTube short, and it was a woman who was explaining why she left her partner, and it was and I'm not casting aspersions on her whatsoever, but it's just like it just really reminded me of something that I think everyone should be aware of when it's just like one side of a story, when someone's talking about a kind of victimhood situation in which they were totally innocent and totally victimized. Yeah, she was just saying, I don't know, she newborn baby, and she rented a 4-bedroom house or something, and she had a partner who would insist on working out in the bedroom where she had her baby sleeping, and she asked him to, of course, just like so meekly and mildly, to kindly work out and blast his music in a different room. And basically things escalated. He ended up punching her in the face and shook her baby and left or something, left her own home presumably. And I'm not saying that what happened wasn't how she said it was, but it was really interesting because I worked in this place where the boss was really incredible. She was just really incredible, and she opened up to me really early on. And I gather she just had that kind of relationship with everybody, and made everyone feel really special and like they were her confidant. And she told a very, very awful, harrowing story about how she had been very badly persecuted by a manager that had just that week left, like really badly persecuted, with a lot of people siding with him, and how she had been as constructive as a person possibly could be while communicating with him, and then was dragged into meetings ad hoc and taken out of context and basically drilled and given the third degree and all that kind of stuff. And she spent 20 grand of legal fees and, went through absolute hell and all that kind of stuff. And there were quite a lot of horrible things that had happened to her. She'd been part of a home invasion. Her best friend, who was her cousin, had died, like stuff like that. And, I wouldn't ever think there would be much more of a more sort of honest, straight up kind of person than she was. And what I really loved about her, she was a really good advocate as well. So she wasn't the kind of boss that would stand by and let someone else bully somebody. Like, she came in real strong to get between me and an accusation that I'd been homophobic towards somebody else in the office. I was it was insane. Like, she said, she took me aside and she said, look, I already know that's not true. She said, I know, like, it wouldn't even occur to me you'd be like that, but also it was work drinks, and, I'd already heard what the altercation had been about, and it was nothing to do with what she'd complained about. Anyway, so, I mean, I was really, like, gobsmacked by being defended that way because it wasn't the first time she had defended me from this bully, and it's like, my God, I had never in my life had I been ever accustomed to having someone actually actively, like, get in between, like, like, nip bullying in the bud. And to me it was just like another, like, oh God, like, oh geez, like, I've had quite a lot of workplace bullying, and to have someone like step in with something that I would have thought, I mean, it's not minor. It's actually not it wasn't minor. The first thing that happened, it wasn't minor. It was something quite unpleasant said to me in a meeting. But yeah, it's just really amazing to have someone get in between and just say, firstly take me aside and say, that was not called for, and I'm going to have a word with her. And the homophobic accusation, which she reported to, like, through official channels later on, to have the fact, I mean, like, in New Zealand, I don't think I'm being ignorant. I don't think that homophobia doesn't exist, but I really don't think it's a feature of, I don't think it's a feature of a society in New Zealand. I'm sorry, especially not in Wellington. I'm sorry, it's just not. It just is not. And but you know, for but for that very reason, you know, Wellington is very woke, and so, you know, allegations of homophobia would be, would be taken very seriously. So they did put me in a very dangerous situation. And it was just so wonderful that someone just said to me, look, I just want you to know that this accusation was made against you, that I shut it down immediately, that I know you well enough to know that that's just insane. And also I'd had advanced reports from other people at drinks saying what had actually happened, which has nothing to do with homophobia. It was just like a discussion we had about, having a bit of an argument about Tinder and, you know, different motivations that men and women have, you know, on dating apps, anyway, whatever, I'm kind of getting off topic. But anyway, like, this boss was just the most amazing boss ever. And I learned a really amazing lesson because I had a really, really horrific experience with this boss after I ended up leaving that workplace, because it was a couple of months before I was diagnosed with ADHD, and like virtually all adults, you know, like in their 30s and 40s who get diagnosed with ADHD. Well, I know that's true in New Zealand. I'm not quite sure what it's like in the States and England, but I think it's similar. Something like 6% of adults who get diagnosed with ADHD, and those are excluding the adults who are diagnosed as children. You know, obviously, when they're diagnosed as adults, only 6% of adults with ADHD are diagnosed. So you've already got to adulthood to get into that qualifying data set. And then, 6% of those get diagnosed, and that's almost always after a huge life crash. And I had a major life crash, and I had a huge, like, it was probably the worst time of my life, and I'm going through hell at the moment, like I really am, but I don't think what I'm going through now is worse than what I went through before I got diagnosed. It was just this chain link of absolute disasters, you know, just, anyway, I'm sure, you know, you can find any number of stories about how people just, their lives just fall apart, that you're climbing up a hill that you just can't even get a finger hold on. And it's just really, it was really horrible, and I ended up just getting PTSD from the whole thing. It was really bizarre. And as part of that, one of the things that happened was, I had a sort of a spiralling kind of mental health problem, and it wasn't a primary mental health problem, but it was, it was just this intensifying, looping anxiety and depression, which I hadn't had for a very long time. And it was just this doom, and I was getting insomnia. And then anybody who's had insomnia knows that loop where you can't sleep, and the fact that you have to go to work in the morning does not improve your ability to sleep, and then you go to work, and you basically going to work when you haven't slept properly is just hell, because there's something that makes time go by really slowly, and you can't talk to anyone on the phone. Like, you're just in this really weird. And I'd taken a couple of days off because they were just days that I just simply could not cope, and I didn't want to take those days off because I wasn't paid. You know, it was too early for any leave to be to kick in, and paid leave, sorry, and also, you know, everyone was really busy, and I was letting the team down, and so the same boss was I mean, I think she was being fair, but she was really coming down quite hard on me, like, you know what's going on. Anyway, I ended up just one day just absolutely fucking crashing and burning, but kind of just like had a panic attack at work and almost at the beginning, and I just couldn't move, like I couldn't move from my desk. And and this happened a couple of times, and once it happened in a meeting, and all I could do was just sort of grab my boss's arm and like in desperation, like, oh my God. And instead of this kind of like, oh shit, Caitlin's in trouble, what's up, what can we do for her, I just kind of got this very cold glare. And he's just said I have to leave the meeting, I'm going to go to my desk. Or I said something like that, like I was really like almost about to collapse, like very strange. And it was diagnosed later as a panic attack, but not any kind of panic attack I've ever had before, but I guess panic attacks can come in various forms. And she said, okay, well, I'll come out soon, I've just got to, listen to the rest of the meeting. And I was like, okay, so I was just at my desk, and I was just basically collapsing at my desk, like, oh my God. And I poked my head around, and I saw, she's, doesn't look like she doesn't look at all like she's about to kind of get up and leave, like, to come to see me. She looked just very sort of settled into the meeting, yeah, and I was like, oh my God, every moment that goes by is a moment that I feel less capable to get myself home. And I just had to make the call that I would just get up and go and catch the bus home. And that was a fucking nightmare. It was a nightmare. It was just a nightmare to get downstairs, and it was a nightmare to catch the bus home, and I was sort of slumping, and it was just a really horrible experience. And what made it so much worse is having this sort of hostility from my boss. Where... Yeah, no, it was just so fucking nasty. And it came up to about the anniversary of that, and I had got quite sentimental about it, and I confided in her that... And I thought she'd take it well. I honestly thought she'd take it quite well. I was just quite sort of sentimental about it because it was, it was a very significant part of my life, that, for a lot of reasons, and it was just really, really horrific. And it was about Christmas time because that was when it happened, and I guess I just said, like, the way that you responded when I was in that state. And I wasn't blaming her. I wasn't accusing her of being callous. I just disclosed to her because I felt that it was something that would not be at all inappropriate to do, just to say, my God, like, actually, I don't think you've got any idea how much you contributed to my breakdown by your response to me when I was so desperate. And it was absolutely fucking mental that we had the biggest fucking text shit fight you could possibly imagine. And it was so unexpected. And it was like she just completely fucking rewrote history, in which she was saying, but I was really sympathetic to you, and, I couldn't do more for you if I tried. And I was like... And I'm like, but I've literally got our text message record from that time, that totally contradicts that. Like, you were being really hostile, like, when you're coming back to work, like, when I was just saying I'm not coping, and, like, all the stuff, like, was totally belying the saint that she was making herself out to be. And she was so fucking aggressive about it. And it's like... she was just talking absolute fucking, like, what she was saying, her responses were to me, were absolutely contrary to not just my traumatic memories of the situation, which were not necessarily guaranteed to be that reliable, but were certainly backed up by the text messages and emails that we were having during that time, because I was put on sick leave by my GP, and the hostility and the total lack of empathy, and the like, look, I feel so bad for letting you down. I really, really, really want to be there, but I actually just can't. I can't. I'm just frozen. Like, I can't. And just like zero empathy, just all of a sudden, just bottom line, business. And it's like, look, it's okay. Like, in one sense, it's like totally fine for you to just turn into the manager. That's, it's a free world, and, I'm libertarian. But to attack me and say that I was ungrateful for the loving abundance of concern that she showed me, which I proved to her in fucking screen caps of our text messages, did not exist. They were very hostile. It was like Jekyll and Hyde, and she just would not admit to them, and it was just like, wow. And it made me think, and I actually ended up saying to her, I said, I start to wonder if anything that you said about your victimisation by that manager is true. Because you are telling me to my face things that not only I remember as unreliable as memory is, but I also have text messages and emails between us to back it up, that totally make a total lie out of the total fucking bullshit you're telling me, in which you're the saintly martyr. So, yeah, I don't think shit went down like that at all. No, I don't think so. And it just makes me, quite wary of these survival stories, with the toxic ex or the this or the that. And it's like, I do think it's very dangerous to apply a skepticism to somebody who's disclosing abuse, as I've realised, and it's not a scientific way to go about forming beliefs about what someone says to you when they're disclosing abuse. And the reason that I've discarded my scientific, my God, I'm trying to get this little bit of like past frame, but I think, maybe I'll just own up to it and like move it down further on my t-shirt. There we go, out of the way there. Okay, I've always really hated this whole thing, like, believe the victim. And when I went to Rape Crisis in 2017, like, even as a genuine victim, I did resent the slogan, or the tagline, "We believe you," because I'm like, well, I'd rather you believe me because I'm telling you the truth and I've got kind of good, evidence. And when you say I believe you, you're not talking to anyone at all. Like, you're not identifying the you. It's just a pronoun that you're using that just applies to any fucking psychopath who walks into the office, And I'm like, I'd rather be believed because I'm telling a credible story. And I certainly don't go back on that general belief. Like, I think that, there can be a lot of bad that comes out of believing